Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. The final hours of Tottenham Hotspur's summer transfer window are here, and it's been a blockbuster day at Hotspur Way. Spurs have completed the signing of France international Randall Kolo Mouani on loan from PSG, while long-serving winger Bryan Gil is set to leave permanently. With Manor Solomon, Yves Bissouma and Dane Scarlett still facing uncertain futures, plus the final hours are ticking away on Tottenham's summer transfer window, and the opportunity to build a squad for Thomas Frank to compete across all four competitions. Spurs have made improvements to their starting obbies this summer with the arrival of Mohamed Kudus in a £55 million move from West Ham, the loan signing of João Palhinha from Bayern Munich, and the £52 million transfer of Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig. Tottenham also signed Japan international centre-back Kota Takai for £5 million earlier in the window from Kawasaki Frontale, while the loan move of Mathys Tel was made permanent for £30 million. Heading out of the door have been captain Son Heung-min in a move to LAFC that was an MLS record of more than £20 million, while a string of loan players have departed around the UK, Germany and Argentina, including Luka Vuskovic, who only arrived this summer finally from Hajduk Split and is now in Hamburg on loan. What else is still set to happen with just over 2 hours to go? Spurs are set to swoop in a deadline day move for Randall Kolo Mouani, with the 26-year-old France international joining from PSG in a straight season-long €5 million loan without an option or obligation to buy. He was spotted with Tottenham's technical director Johan Lange in London after finishing his medical. Juventus were unable to tie up a deal to bring Mouani to Turin, permanently following his half-season loan in Serie A, where he netted 8 goals in 16 league matches for the Italian Giants. Football.London reported at the weekend that Frank had told Tottenham that he only wanted players who would improve the level of his starting 11 rather than squad fillers, and the Frenchman adds to that. He's been capped 31 times by France and scored 9 goals, and has made 23 appearances in the Champions League, scoring 3 times, and has adapted quickly and scored good numbers in League One, the Bundesliga and Serie A. He also played at this summer's Club World Cup. Spurs remain hopeful over Dominic Solanke's ankle, with an injection given to the player with the plan of settling it down over this international break. The club hope he will be back in action within a couple of weeks. But Mouani's move suggests they are planning after last season's injury crisis, in case the England international's ankle does not react positively to the treatment. There is also Richarlison's injury record to take into account. Spurs had been continuing to look for further opportunities, including at centre-back and wingers, although Mouani can play on the flanks if required. However, at this point, it looks like the Frenchman is likely to be the final new face through the door this summer, barring a late unexpected move. When it comes to a new winger, Tottenham had to weigh up whether to bring in a newcomer on deadline day, who was not high up the list of their original targets, or wait for a future window to try to sign a player up around the top of it, like Manchester City's Savinho. Both strategies, of course, come with their risks. The centre-back search at this point in the window either failed to find the level of player Frank wanted, or turned up defenders who were not willing to play second fiddle to captain Christian Romero, who signed a new contract last month, and Mickey van de Ven, despite the number of games to be played this season. Frank admitted on Friday that he was unlikely to sign a new centre-back at this point. For Spurs, it's about getting the players out the door who either aren't in Frank's plans or are just not going to be able to be registered in the Champions League. Spanish winger Bryan Gil is set to leave the club after 4 years and 3 loans, with a permanent move to Girona for the 24-year-old in a €10 million, £8.6 million deal. Tottenham are also looking to move Manor Solomon out of the door, with Crystal Palace in talks over a loan for the 26-year-old Israel international, who impressed at Leeds United last season. Spurs would like to sell Yves Bissouma, who currently has a knee injury that Frank said was not a long-term one, with his contract in its final 10 months. The 29-year-old Mali international has been linked with a move to Turkey, and their transfer window does not close until September 12th. Dane Scarlett has thus far been unable to find a move, despite being left behind from the summer tour in order to do so. Some other windows remain open, such as the Eredivisie one for another 24 hours, and the Belgian and Swiss ones until next Monday. But if the 21-year-old cannot find a move, then he will remain around the squad and can be involved in the European squad due to being homegrown. Deadline day is here, and Tottenham Hotspur are set for a frantic finish. Spurs have already made big moves this summer with the arrivals of Xavi Simons, Mohamed Kudus, Joao Palhinha and more, but the squad is far from complete. Thomas Frank still wants a winger and a centre-back before 7 p.m, with Ademola Lookman strongly linked and Sevilla ruled out. Outgoings could be just as busy too, with Yves Bissouma, Bryan Gil, Dane Scarlett and Manor Solomon all facing uncertain futures. Will Spurs pull off a late blockbuster signing or lose key names before the window slams shut? Transfer deadline day is finally here. It has been a very interesting summer window for Tottenham Hotspur, with plenty of frustration and also a couple of wins in the transfer market. Heading into the final day of the window, Spurs have so far turned Kevin Danso and Mathys Tell's loan deals into permanent moves. Luka Vuskovic finally made the switch from Hajduk Split. Joao Palhinha joined on loan from Bayern Munich, and Kota Takai, Mohamed Kudus and Xavi Simons secured permanent moves to NE17. Johan Langer still has plenty of work to do on deadline day, with the window closing for business until January at 7 p.m. this evening. As important as incomings are to bolster Thomas Frank's numbers, outgoings are also needed as part of a squad refresh for the 2025/26 season. So what deals could Tottenham look to complete in the last few hours of transfer deadline day? Football.London takes a look below. Tottenham have yet to bring in a new winger to take Son Heung-min's place in the squad, and that needs to happen on deadline day. Manchester City ace Sevilla was heavily linked with a move to Spurs, but it would appear that he will be remaining at the Etihad Stadium. The Manchester Evening News reported on Thursday that City have ruled out selling the Brazilian. Ademola Lookman of Atalanta has been mentioned in regards to a late switch to Tottenham, as he looks to depart the Italian side before this evening's cut-off point. Bayern Munich are also keen on the 27-year-old with a possible loan deal mooted, and Spurs will have to get one over their German counterparts if they are to secure the signing of the former Premier League winger. Tottenham also require a new centre-back before 7 p.m, although a new winger features higher up on the priority list right now. It is still a position Spurs have to try and strengthen. However, Frank wants cover at centre-back due to the amount of games Christian Romero and Mickey van de Ven missed last season, with Radu Dragusin still in the treatment room prior to his return to training very soon. The loan departure of Vuskovic to Hamburg has reduced Tottenham's options even further in the position. Dane Scarlett will be hoping to get his loan move away from the club in the final few hours of the transfer window. The striker was left out of Tottenham's pre-season tour squad to explore a loan deal, but a move hasn't quite happened for him yet. He needs to be playing every week, and the hope will be that the academy graduate can secure a switch elsewhere before time runs out. Bryan Gil clearly does not have a future. Sortilyi at Tottenham, having missed out on a squad number for the new season. The Spaniard is currently working his way back to fitness from a knee injury, and that could potentially impact a possible move, given it's not clear yet when he will be fit to return to the pitch. Tottenham really cannot afford for that to be the case due to his contract status. Yves Bissouma will feature in the headlines on deadline day. The Mali international has dropped down the Tottenham midfield pecking order this summer following the arrival of Palhinha, and it could result in a late exit. Like Gil, Bissouma's current contract expires next summer, and the club really need to part with him this window to ensure his value does not drop too much. Tottenham were last week in discussions with Galatasaray over a loan deal, but the midfielder remains a Spurs player for now. Manor Solomon was in Frank's Tottenham squad for the first time last weekend after a frustrating summer through injury. The winger gave the head coach an extra attacking option, but he remained on the bench despite Spurs needing a goal against Bournemouth. The 26-year-old is going to find regular minutes hard to come by at Tottenham, and that could pave the way for a late exit on Monday. Solomon will only drop a place in the pecking order if a new winger comes in. As certain as the passing of the seasons and the sun and moon rising in the sky is the fact that Tottenham will lose before an international break. Spurs might have put in 3 impressive performances, starting the Premier League season with 5 goals and 2 clean sheets, including a win at the Etihad Stadium. But just whisper in someone's ear that it's time for international football, and the North London club will crumble. Tottenham have now lost their past 7 Premier League games on the match day before an international break. It never used to be that way. They had gone unbeaten in the previous 13. Before that, winning 10 of those, but something shifted a couple of years ago. Perhaps it's just coincidence, perhaps players are mindful of getting injured, or perhaps they just lack the ability to focus on the present. Either way, this was a dismal affair, reminiscent of much of what was served up in the Premier League last season with Spurs, as open to counter-attacks as they were back then, despite Thomas Frank's new defensive structure. And that's what annoyed him even more than the lack of creativity. We clearly didn't perform well today. We played against a very good Bournemouth team that we know can make it difficult for any team in the league, Frank told Football.London. They played to their strengths. They did that very well, and we didn't handle it well. We knew exactly what they came with, and we trained for it. We just didn't handle it well enough in terms of the balls in behind, the second balls, duels in the middle of the park. That's the defensive side, and on the offensive side we struggled to find good enough solutions to get through phase 1 and 2, so we could get up there and put a bit of pressure on them. We only did that in the last 15 where we put on good pressure, and could have equalised. I think over the game it was fair that Bournemouth won. Tottenham were missing that bit of magic, and the man who can provide that was only able to step onto the pitch to say hello to the fans inside his new home. Xavi Simons, Spurs' new £52 million signing, who put pen to paper on a 5-year contract with an option for another 2, came out onto the turf 5 minutes before the supporters had been told, catching out a few who hadn't reached their seats yet. He waved and applauded all the stands and showed off his phone goal celebration, which came about because he was always ringing his brother when he first moved to PSG, and they decided on it while playing FIFA together and saw a similar celebration. Spurs could have done with Xavi being signed before the Friday deadline and having magically been awarded his work permit in record time. For everything that the 22-year-old Dutchman brings to the table was needed against the Cherries. Sometimes you need a player that can do something, clicks his fingers, a little bit out of nothing, go past the player, produce a cross, a shot, a pass, with that extra quality that you need on the day, and that's what I think he can bring, said Frank of his new signing. Xavi's arrival certainly brought a buzz inside Hotspur way, on the day he was being signed, with players excited about the transfer, and some asking staff whether it was done yet at points around training. For the Barcelona product is a statement signing, and he's got all the elements to become a star in this Tottenham side. The club shop on Saturday had so many fans looking to get number 7 shirts with his name on it that the wait for printing reached more than an hour at one point. The youngster watched the game from a box in the West Stand, complete with a big entourage which will no doubt slim down as he settles in. He was taken down inside the stadium with about 10 minutes to go of the match. The problem with Sunday's defeat is that it showed how Spurs can be without creativity and with the running and pressing game below what was required. They had 61.4% of the possession, but an XG of just 0.17 compared to Bournemouth's 1.45. In simpler terms, the visitors had 20 shots to Tottenham's 5, in their own backyard. So what happens if Xavi misses matches against teams that are tougher to break down and double up on the wide men? Spurs' original plan was to sign Morgan Gibbs-White to compete with and play alongside James Maddison, only for the latter to suffer that ACL injury and ruled out for much of the campaign. So it is risky to go into a busy campaign with just Xavi as a true number 10, although he can also play down the left, and Mur